actually having our hearing on the expansion of the program tomorrow night in the Senate. Senate Finance Committee, when we address issues like this, we like to have our colleagues who have the experience and expertise in the field. So we've adopted sort of a joint hearing model when it comes to these kinds of articles in the budget. So tomorrow night, Finance and Education will be holding a joint hearing on it, and we'll be getting at those kinds of questions with our Education Committee tomorrow night.
What do you need to hear to be comfortable with expanding this program?
Well, I think that we have heard a lot of good results today. The expansion touches upon a number of different things. We're going to ask questions about each one of those areas of expansion. We want to make sure that we're going to have the opportunity to sort of see those performance measures as well and how it's going to be assessed. And naturally that we want to be able to afford it.
I want to thank the chairman not only for being here this morning, because it's a full-time day job, as well as being chairman of finance, but I want to thank you for coming. And when we talked about him being here, he said, I want to get out there and learn. Is it working? So I imagine the analysis will be, how's it going? But I also want to thank you and the Senate and the legislature for their support of the initial program. It was new. We made the investment. And I think it's crystal clear that not only is it changing lives, but it's good for our economy. We have had more than one company move to Rhode Island because of this program, because companies want to be in places with a skilled workforce. So really, I want to thank you for being here and thank you for your past support of this program.
Governor, what should Rhode Islanders know and what should students know, and prospective students know about this proposed expansion?
About the expansion? About the expansion, they should know that the existing program is working. They should know that we live in a world now where almost every good job requires something past high school, whether it's a degree, a credential, an apprenticeship. So we need to make that a reality for most Rhode Islanders. Obviously, I put in a budget that balances, and the investment is in there. So I would say not only can we afford it, we can't afford not to do it. Every economy in America that is growing, look at every economy, city or state, that is fast growing, what do they all have in common? Highly skilled workforce. So I want Rhode Island to be, in that flow.
So what will this look like now? It'll be first 2 years at CCRI and last 2 years at Rhode Island
If the
College?
new proposal goes through, yes.
And what's the price tag?
It's a $3 million at RIC.
But the only clarification would be, students choose, right? So none of these
that's
students
good.
will take a degree here and then move on to Rhode
You
Island
could
College.
choose
It's
one
an
or the
either
other.
or,
Expansion.
very good point. You can
Either.
either come here, or you can choose to go to Rhode Island College. If you go to Rhode Island College, the first 2 years is as it is now, it's on you, and then the scholarship applies to the second 2 years. Also, remember, it's a last dollar scholarship, so for these guys to be eligible, for anyone to get it, first they have to exhaust all their other grants, their Pell Grant, their scholarships, and then there's a gap. Often these scholarships are $500, $700. Like, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I'm gonna. What's that like? Like, when I hear that, think about that, Mario. $700 could determine whether someone goes to college, graduates, and gets a good job, or doesn't. That might not seem like a lot of money to you, but where you talk about that? $700, $800. How big of a deal is that in your life?
I mean, not having it is detrimental, It's just, you never know when things are gonna happen, like you get into a car accident or someone hurts themselves or some window breaks in your house, like, it's huge. That amount of money is huge when you don't have it, especially if you're middle class or lower class. So like, I feel like a lot of us take it for granted, but you really understand what you have in your bank account right now as a student, and you realize not having that money, like minus like $800 for your bank account, it's huge.
I think the only other comments I would make about the entire program here is that we're using more federal money than we are state money. So there is a higher percentage of students that are part of the Promise program here who are securing federal dollars. That's one of course, the greatest incentives to doing it, right? The governor and the chair wanted to figure out a way to access that federal money so that it comes here and it doesn't go to California or Florida or somewhere else. The other observation I would make from where I sit, there's not a day that goes by that I don't get an email from a student that's trying to figure out a way to buy a book, or is trying to find a way to get themselves from wherever their home is or wherever their job is to the college. So the thing I would want folks to understand, our tuition is roughly just under $5,000. That's less than half of the cost of what it actually costs to be a college student, right? You've still got to figure out how to feed yourself, how to get yourself here, and how to pay for your books. And the books are one of the biggest costs. So what we've seen is, with the arrival of the Rhode Island Promise, students now have the money they actually need to go on and buy those books. And that's a big deal, and it's a difference between performing and earning the kind of GPAs you're seeing in front of you and not being able to actually stay in the class. Hard to do well in a class if you can't afford the book.
President, you said this will be the largest graduating class ever.
Yes.
A direct result, you think, of Promise?
So we can ask Vice President Enright, who tracks these numbers on an hourly basis. I think what I would offer, is the following. I think at the very beginning of this conversation, we talked about the importance of launching something and sticking with it. When I think about the conversations we're having at the K through 12 level right now, and all the looking to Massachusetts and what Massachusetts has been able to do, the thing I will let Rhode Island to know is, let's stick with this. It is working. I predict we will see, with this year's graduating class, a 2-year graduation rate that will have at least tripled what we did before the launch. And I would challenge anybody to find a community college that has even come close to meeting that in a 2-year time horizon. That most certainly, hard as we're working, talented as our students are, you don't get that without a Promise program like this.
Governor, do you think Rhode Island college enrollment has suffered because of the Promise here over the last few years?
I want to say something to what you
Yeah.
said, and I also want to answer that. Possibly. Rhode Island college enrollment has been declining for 10+ years, so that is a fact. Whether this Promise has added to that in the past couple of years, it's hard to say, but possibly. It's hard to say, but possibly. Megan just made a really good point. You were asking about affordability, and I can't speak for you, I'll speak for myself. When you're managing government and you're spending $9 or $10 billion, you're constantly asking yourself, what's working, right? Taxpayer dollars are precious. You want to invest in where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. This initial Promise program, it's $5 or $6 million, a drop in the bucket in the context of our budget. In addition, it's taking in millions of federal money. The result is a 40% increase in enrollment, a tripling of our graduation rate, and thousands of people who are going to be able to get a job and have a degree forever, never going to be able to take it away. So as I look across state government and all the things we invest money in, and there are difficult choices, believe me, we make them every day. Invest in this, don't invest in that. The lens I say is it working? Is it a good return on taxpayer money? And will it create jobs? And this one checks every box.
Governor,
Last question.
I just haven't heard any updates, I'm sorry if I missed something, but is there a status update on the progress of expanding to adult learners at CCRI?
That's in the proposal as well, so that's why I looked at Kevin about the $3 million number.
So we have $2 million is the proposal for adult students who will be persisting toward a degree. They have to enroll in a certain number of credits in order to be eligible. When we talked about launching this program 2 years ago, I remember it, and I remember what we said. First we said thank you, and then we said let's prove that we can make this work, and then let's figure out how to expand it to our adult learners. And so for us, it would be groundbreaking if we were able to do this, to make it available to part-time adult Rhode Islanders who we know, as the governor said, will need that credential in order to be competitive in today's economy.
I just have one quick one. I know tuition at Brick is going up. Is that taken into account in
Yes.
your?
Yes. Well, it is, because that happened a year ago that they made that decision, so we knew that when we put this new proposal in. Do you know how much extra Pell money we're getting?
It's more than
the state investment, right? It's more than 100%.
Yeah, it's in the millions. What I know is that for every dollar the state puts in, Pell is putting in more than that. I think if you look at how much Pell contributes to tuition and fees at this college, it's somewhere between $1.20 and $1.30 for every dollar the state puts in. And then if you consider the fact that Pell also provides money to the lowest income students to pay for their books, and that's money that's coming from the federal government to those students, you get closer to $1.50 of federal money coming into Rhode Island to support students for every dollar that the state is investing.
So basically, a lot of people, and you guys can chime in if you want, what we know is a lot of kids just weren't applying because they figured college isn't for me, I can't afford it, why should I bother to apply? When we came out with Promise and said 2 years free tuition, they said, oh, maybe I should apply. When they apply, they realize they're eligible for a lot of Pell money. So the fact of our investment, every dollar the state puts in, we get $1.50 of federal money that we previously were just leaving on the table.
A different way of saying that would be, we have many more low-income students coming to the community college of Rhode Island than prior to the launch of Promise. So that's a big deal. We're increasing the college going rate for precisely the populations we know we need to be serving in order to build a competitive economy.
Because they figured I should apply. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
You guys all staying in Rhode Island?